so much for being here. We are only waiting to meet Liliana that she comes back, and when she comes back, we will start our presentation. Thank you so much for your patience.
Hello, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure for us to see you here in order just to share this interesting topic, which is called, let me see, sorry, partnering. Partnering with AI to design AI-resistant creative tests in ELT by Magister Lina Bermeo Sua. And let's thanks to our colleague who joined us through YouTube, via YouTube. Let's introduce Lina Bermeo. She is an ELT professional with a bachelor's degree in bilingualism with an emphasis in English, dedicated to crafting impactful learning experiences, developing innovative materials, and implementing assessment strategies. Currently, she applies this expertise as an academic consultant for Pearson, specializing in assessment. Throughout her 10 years as an English teacher, including 5 years teaching online for educational projects in Colombia and other Latin American countries, she has consistently integrated ICT to enhance student engagement. Her contributions also include designing, adapting.
So hello everyone. Good evening already, yes? So hello everyone. Good evening already, yes? Well, my name is Lina Maria Bergasua. I'm from Colombia, and this is my first time visiting Panama. I have been here with my colleagues visiting schools, universities throughout Panama City, so it's an honor to be here with you this evening. And we're gonna start this topic of partnering with AI. This name has been chosen. We always in the academic team like to share our presentations and to discuss the titles from the beginning, because there's no denying AI is here to stay, right? But we, from the educational sector, we decide on the terms of how we want to use this innovative tool. Right? So what we want to discuss here today is how we as teachers can identify those traditional tasks, how they are vulnerable to AI. Right? Then to understand what makes these tasks to be resistant, what can we do? Right? We will also talk about a continuum to evaluate the tasks, and of course, because this is an auditorium, we're going to brainstorm on how to make this task AI resistant. So first, we're going to do this as a group. This is a thinking routine that is called think, pair, share. So with the person who is next to you, you're going to think and discuss on a task that you recently assigned, or if you're a student, a task that you were assigned, speaking, reading, any skill. First, identify what the students had to do and answer the question with that person if the student can do it using AI. And can the student use this using AI? The second question is even more intriguing. Can you notice? Would you notice if the student were using AI? So I'm going to give you 2 minutes for you to discuss this first part with the person who is sitting next to you. Give you a moment. Discuss. Look at the person next to you. Yes. So, could students use AI to do it? And would you notice? Okay, the students or teachers on YouTube also think about that question. One more minute to discuss. Think, for example, about essay, writing exercises, right? Or creative writing exercises, even. Okay. Sorry to break up the conversations. Time's up. Time's up. Okay. So, who wants to share their answers? For people who participate today, we brought a little something. I choose from the hands. Who wants to share their ideas? Why is everyone so shy today? Think maybe, teacher, would you like to share?
I asked my students to work on a research paper,
Mm-hmm.
and they were free to choose the topic. But when I asked them for the first draft to check, I realized that, they use AI. But what I did was I tried to, explain them. Okay, you use the AI right now. Tell me about your own point of view based on what you research.
Right. So just for the people who are also online, the teacher told us that he assigned students to write a research paper where they could choose a topic. But on the first draft, he noticed. How did you notice, by the way? That was
the way that they write is not the same way as the paper was
the voice of AI. Right? It sounds. Thank you very much, teacher. You get. You see, to participate. Yes. So we notice that in the voice there's something something off. There's not even there are no mistakes. There's not a natural voice or a point of view. But teacher, you went ahead to the next step. You already noticed that issue and you suggested a way to make that activity AI resistant. You are a little bit far on the continuum. Perfect. Anyone else who wants to share? Yes.
Sometimes I believe that it's not that it's not that we are gonna ask the answer and just copy paste what AI gave us, but mostly is to get an structure. For example, we put our own ideas, we put everything that we research, that we understand, we just want to structure.
Structure, the outline, right? Sometimes you can submit it. There you go. Please. Take it. Yes. Thank you very much for participating. You mentioned something very important, and is the part of the authorship of a paper or a work. It's dissolved when we use AI, right? But when we have clear and defined roles on what's the role of the student or the author of that work and what's the role of AI, how am I using it? That's also what we're going to discuss later on. So, what's the issue here? That many tasks these days, they get to be easily completed with AI because the focus is not on learning or practice. The emphasis is on completing the task. And this is something that for me as a teacher, it hit hard because sometimes we focus too much on completing the task and receiving a mark for the outcome, but then we focus too little on learning. And we're gonna see those differences later on. So the first step, and this is something that we're gonna identify, what makes a task AI vulnerable? And it has nothing to do with if it's a traditional task or non-traditional task. No, it has to do with the core of the task. So the first is if your task focuses only and exclusively on the final product, then the task is more vulnerable to be done with AI. Here the teacher mentioned something valuable. Oh, this is the first draft. Right? So when you talk about first draft, you think about the process of writing, you don't think too much about the product. The second one is if your task doesn't require process or thinking evidence. And this is related with the first one. So if you assign a task where you are not focusing on the process of doing the task, like for example, oh students, I want to see your outline, the outline of the paper, before the paper itself, as you were saying. Right? Oh students, we're gonna have a brainstorming session in the class first. And then, as you were saying, we're going to use AI, and then we're going to use again the homework, the work at home, right? Because we're making that thinking visible. Then, if our task uses predictable formats, here's where creativity goes a long way, right? I mean, research papers need to be diligently read, revised, there's a process, right? But the format could also be, how do you turn that into a video essay? I love watching the in-depth analysis of film or pop culture that are video essays. And they follow the same structure of an essay with the thesis statement and arguments, so but the format is different. This one is really important. If your tasks are too generic and they lack meaningful personalization, then this is more likely to be resolved with AI. Right? I always share this anecdote where in books sometimes we see these exercises like, hey students, let's have a role play about going to the restaurant. But we never ask, what kind of restaurant? Is it typical food? Is it seafood? Is the menu about traditional, in my case, Colombian food or regional food? So if we make these activities culturally sensitive or related with students' personal lives, then it will be less likely for the students to use AI. Another teacher shared a couple of weeks ago in this talk in Bogota, She shared that her final project with the students was to create a recipe, a cookbook recipe, but they had to submit the recipes from their grandmother's recipes. So they had to interview grandmothers, write down the information, take pictures of the food, and of course, if I ask you to bring me the recipe of your favorite food, you can just ask for AI to bring the recipe to the food. But when you just add something like, hey, talk to your grandmother, and that's actually the next step. It's culturally connected and it requires interaction. If your task does not require interaction, then again, students are more likely to use AI to solve the issue. This can work as a checklist. Whenever you have those tasks or those activities, check to see if there's like a weak point over there. So, now I'm going to show you examples of tasks that are vulnerable to AI. And again, for the people who participate, you raise your hand and you tell us how that task is vulnerable. So for writing, the task is write an essay about social media. How is this vulnerable to AI?
You don't know the specific topic. You don't know exactly what you're looking for. You just are putting something so it can start saying about how it's not good or it's affecting or young people, telling them like, you have, or this is real, this is not real, and do it with, but the news says this on social media.
So it's too generic, the topic. What about social media? Yes. So it's not personalized, right? Maybe the format, again, is too strict. And it also focuses on the product, just the essay. So the students can just ask AI, copy-paste the instructions of the essay, the length of the words, and that's it. Yes. How about for this one? Answer reading comprehension questions. How is this vulnerable to AI? Yes.
Because AI will just read the whole paragraph and then it will answer the questions and then it affects you because you don't develop your reading comprehension.
You don't even need to read the text.
You don't even need to read it, so.
Exactly. Thank you very much for participating. So you see, we are focused on completion and there's no learning. They are skipping the learning part.
I just want to give a comment about high school. In the past, professors asked students to read novels. Now they just ask AI to give summary and just read the summary and pass the test.
Yes, that's right. Even the notes on their notebooks are being replaced. Yes. Handwriting as well. Handwriting, right? Thank you very much, teacher, as well. A little something, why not? We need sugar and sweet at this hour of the day as well. So for listening, if I ask my students, hey, listen to this podcast and answer the questions, comprehension questions, how is this vulnerable to AI? Let's think like a student, like you are one to cheat and just complete the task and be done with it. How can they complete this task with AI? Mm-hmm. Yes, you can put the video on AI, the link, copy and paste, ask the questions. Yes. Again, they are just focusing on the products. We can even use the transcripts. Have you seen that on YouTube? You can get the transcript of the videos. And now YouTube is partnering with Gemini and you can ask questions about the video directly. It makes a lot of processes easier, yes, but what is in risk is learning itself. We focus on completing the task and learning it's left behind. And for speaking, of course, although AI cannot replace a teacher in front of a classroom yet, I hope never, but when a student prepares a presentation, how can they use AI to help themselves for this?
Make notes.
Make the notes,
Bullet points.
the bullet points, the script, even. The script.
Who was the,
I think that is the same.
You can have the script. And sometimes we get the notes and the students are reading not even from flashcards anymore, like cue cards, but from their cell phones.
Right.
Yes. What we miss over here is something that is crucial, like eye contact, like that human interaction. So these were just examples of how our tasks are vulnerable to AI. But then, now we're going to talk about the bright side. What makes this task AI resistant? So the first thing is, think of your tasks in terms of process, not the product, not the final product. Right? Think about how that task shows the thinking process, the development process. So the prototype, the teacher mentioned the draft. Right? I know that we wish we had enough time to read 40, 100 drafts, right? But still think about how you can focus on that process. Then focus on different skills. And when I talk about different skills, I don't mean just the linguistic skills like listening, reading, speaking, but also think about your projects in terms of the transferable skills of the 21st century. How can I develop empathy with this task, right? Another teacher told me the other day that they were talking about writing your family member's routine, writing the routine, something normal that we do. But what she did was, hey, I want you to follow your mom's routine on a Saturday or a Sunday. You're gonna be the shadow of your mom. And you're gonna write what she does, the time, the action that she does every single Sunday or Saturday. You're gonna be her shadow. There is interaction, yes, but they are talking about transferring the skills of empathy. The product of that task was that the student noticed that the routine of their moms and dads was different. They noticed, hey, my mom wakes up a little earlier at 4 a.m. to make lunch for us. My dad wakes up at 8 and he takes it to the park. That has even social studies, conclusions for that. She didn't want to do that. She wanted to talk about the routine, the daily routine. But she was very creative and she included linguistic skills with transferable skills and cognitive skills. Because then, again, it's not about just thinking about simple present, the rules, the letter S, to conjugate the verbs, but it's, oh, I want to understand what a day in my mom's life is. Right? So transferable skills, nowadays we call them soft skills from the social emotional learning as well. So try to think those connections, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, right? And I love this icon because it's like, we want to paint a picture with as many colors as we can. The linguistic colors, the transferable, the cognitive, and the metacognitive. Then, try to include tasks that promote reflection on the task. Not only about self-assessment, but also when the students have agency in their decision making. So the teacher says they have to write a research paper and they were free to choose the topic. They had decision making process. But it's not just about, oh, I want to talk about social media. Okay, why? Justify your answer. Give me 3 good reasons why you chose this topic on your research paper. Not just because, oh, because I like it. Why do you like it? So we are working on the arguments to defend that. Then, if you notice, these 6 are the opposite of the first 6 that I mentioned before, the counterpart. If your task is connected to their experiences, their opinions, as you were asking, local culture, we overlook all the cultural context we have, their families, their neighborhoods, their families. So try to take advantage of those cultural moments. I think it was on Tuesday, the teacher said, hey, I'm planning a project about the World Cup. And they had to do a little research project about one of the countries that is participating in the World Cup. So it's personalized, it's cultural, it's current, it's about something they're interested in. If the activity helps engage students with others, this is the interaction part. Not others in terms of, hey, this is a group work, 3 students, but others in terms of community. Their families, another classmates, interview other teachers, interview neighborhoods, go to businesses, like have interaction in the world with that task. And last one, this is the one that we're going to focus today as well. Use AI as a tool, not as a shortcut. This is like my motto. I want AI as a tool, not as a shortcut. If it's a shortcut, we focus on completion. If it's a tool, we can focus on learning. So how can we incorporate AI, but with a clear purpose? This is what we want to do today. Incorporating AI with a purpose, like a tool that you can use, so we can adapt, we can improve, and we can keep working on those same tasks, but using AI. This is the continuum. Now, if you want to take a picture or people online want to take a screenshot, this continuum is mapping the role of AI in our tasks. So the first one is Gen AI free. The Gen as generative AI, as our chatbots, Copilot, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and chatbot. So the generative AI free assignment. In this assignment, well, the student doesn't use AI. It's a violation of the academic rules, and the integrity of the task is at risk. There's nothing wrong with these tasks. I don't want to be mistaken by saying we cannot have Gen AI free activities. We can, yes, but we just have to know that they are at a high risk. They are vulnerable to be replaced with AI. So that's the first stage. The second one is Gen AI assisted. This is when the student uses, you can allow the use for a very specific task. So it's similar to what our participant was saying, right? How can I use AI for a specific process, like AI, help me to brainstorm ideas for this research project. And I just use it for brainstorm, and the rest of the work is on me. Then we have Gen AI augmented. In the augmented, we start talking about contributions. What are my contributions? What are AI contributions? Where both are giving feedback to each other, like writing on our notes. And the last one is Gen AI empowered. Like that's the higher level, right? So to get this concept a little bit clearer and in depth, I'm going to ask everybody to please scan this QR code. Scan this QR code, go ahead. I'm going to go back to show you the activity as well. And people online, you can also scan the QR code. Okay. You will find a Genially activity where there's a chart, and you need to drag and drop the concepts in the right place. Okay. You can scan that QR code, and I'll show you the activity as well from here. Could everybody in the auditorium open the activity? Yes? You may need to change the phone. To have it on the side. Right, I'm going to give you a moment for you to complete that. And here you have the activity also on the screen. So what we want to have here is to map the student's role at each stage and to map AI's role at each stage. Here in the auditorium, is there anyone who wants to come here and place the concept in the column? I'll give you one more minute. All right. Here in the auditorium, is anyone ready? Raise your hand. Ready? Yes? Do you want to participate over there, Mr. Yes? Okay, you tell me and I drag and drop this. Okay. So the first one for the student roles. Produce. That's correct. Yes. Produce. Anyone else for AI assisted? Uses AI. Yes. Here. Uses AI. So in the AI free, the student produces itself just the task. AI assisted, the student uses AI. How about augmented?
Evaluate AI.
Evaluate. Yes. Evaluate AI. So the student evaluates AI in order to produce the task and will finally empower the student challenges AI. Right? Like comparing the answers, as the teacher was saying, I want you to read the answers of AI and maybe apply critical thinking, rewrite it, ask questions. How about AI role in the first one, AI free? No, AI doesn't do anything, we don't allow it. And the level of thinking is basic or intermediate. Then in AI assisted, what's the role? Support. I noticed yesterday that we were having this talk as well at school. We noticed that most of the tasks where we are using AI, we are at this level. We are using AI as an assistant, right? We ask it to complete tasks for us. But our role becomes just as users. And we cannot be just users of AI. We need to start to co-create, to collaborate. Then for AI augmented, partner. And this is also, that's the reason why we named this talk like that, partner. We want to partner with AI. And finally, well, collaborate. Yes, so I'll go here, we'll go back to my presentation. So why we wanted, the reason we wanted to stop over there, let me go back over here. We wanted to play emphasis on the roles, to be aware of your role when using AI. What are you doing? Just using it as a personal assistant to complete the whole task? Or are you using it, go back over here very quickly, as a partner? So if we want AI to be our partners, the roles and the tasks need to be clearly defined. If the teacher wants to allow the use of AI, you can start by just assist it, giving little tasks where it is allowed to use AI within the classroom, yes, but where you challenge the results, where you get them to fact check. We know that AI is hallucinating a lot and it's not giving us factual information, so why don't we make our students detectives to find if the sources or the information we got there is actually correct. So here we have another activity, and this is for us also to think. You can think about it with the person who is next to you. We are going to read these 5 tasks, and the first thing that you're going to do is assess if this task is vulnerable to AI. So we're going to do this. The first step, we're going to skip it because it was for a longer workshop. We're going to start in the step number 2. Again, we're going to ask the question about that task. How would students cheat with AI? Where is the weakness in that task? So, we're going to do this with only one task. Teacher, please choose a number. Number 2. Okay, number 2. Miss, can you help us read the number 2? Just read the number 2.
Read and summarize.
Yes.
Students read a short text. They identify the arguments and make a mind map.
Okay. So we all, as a group, we are going to apply these steps to number 2. Okay, as a whole group. Read and summarize. The students read a short text. They identify key arguments and they make a mind map. Now let's remember our first question for another participant. How would students cheat with AI? And then number 2, how would students cheat with AI over here?
They could use AI to make like a video.
They could, sorry?
They could use AI to make a PowerPoint.
They could use AI to make a PowerPoint. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And to get the mind map. Yes. Beautiful mind maps. And then they just need to read the mind map. And great job, everybody. We completed the task, but no. So, where is the weakness? Where is the weakness in this task? In the number 2.
It's ultimately done by AI.
They don't produce. They focus on the product, which is the mind map. Yes, it's not personalized. There's no cultural sensitivity either. Is there interaction? There's no interaction. So remember that the first slide with the 6 points. Apply that as a checklist. for your tasks. There's no interaction. It focuses just on the product. So this task is really vulnerable to AI. But it doesn't mean everything is lost. No, that's not our idea of today. Our idea is that we can make this task AI resistant. Again, with the 4 steps, focus on process. So thinking of the mind map, stages, draft, and feedback. Yes, maybe you ask AI to create the mind map for the summary. Why not? Okay, create the mind map with AI. Everyone is going to come. Maybe, do you think they're going to come with the same mind map?
They can vary.
They vary, but the tone is the same. It's all with a very flat, like no standpoint. Now they don't want to take a stand. AI is kind of like neutral sometimes, right? So what you can ask is take the students with that AI generated mind map, but then you can create a tool for them to evaluate that. Maybe for exchange mind maps and create a criteria to compare whether the mind map is reflecting the real text or not. So you can read the text in class again and compare with the AI summary, which is the mind map. They created the mind map with AI, but they are doing something interactive in class. Maybe you can also choose texts that are controversial or that are interesting for students, and we focus on the process. Focus on interaction, personalization, and reflection, right? So that would be the last part. How do we get our students, and I'll go back here, how do we get our students that with the task number 2, they get to reflect? Ask any question about that part of the process, right? So ask them to reflect about this process. And the last step for us, it would be to define the roles clearly. Remember the chart, right? The chart of AI free, AI assisted, AI augmented, AI empowered. And when we define this, and it is clear what your students do and what AI does, then you say, hey, yes, it's allowed to use AI, but just for this specific task. For the next step, the next stage, we come back to the class and we continue to evaluate the process, maybe to read, maybe to pair, evaluate. And again, the teacher creates the ground rules for using AI. This type of activity that I'm suggested is AI augmented, right? There's a clear role and there's a clear process of working with AI. But there could be many, many, many more ideas. Do you have any questions so far? We're coming to almost the end over here. So a final reflection or a takeaway for us is assess those moments in your classes where we need to be AI free. Definitely. We still need to have AI free tasks. But then also consider those other tasks where you can involve little by little the use of this technology. Because it's not all lost, it's not all bad, right? It helps us to make some processes faster. But we just need to give it a clear pedagogical direction for the students to use it responsibly. And I will also, with these references, want to share a webinar, a beautiful webinar that was done by Pearson Global in 2025, that it was called Adapting Assessment in the Age of AI. That was my main inspiration. But the next step is, well, it was, okay, then we have the theory, then how can we think about the class realities day by day? Okay. So these are our references for this conversation, for this talk, teachers and students. I don't know if you have any questions, comments, any takeaways? Well, to the people that were here in the auditorium, thank you very much. To the people on YouTube as well, I hope you take many ideas to apply in your classes or to yourself, to your own learning. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Alina, for giving us such an interesting conference. This conference will help all of our teachers here in the city and in the countryside, because we also have people, students and teachers from the countryside watching this presentation. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Gloria Ho, Principal of the English Department in Linz. Thank you for being, yes, on vacation. Thank you for being here and taking your time to share with us, the teachers and the students. We all miss you here, right? But thank you very much, Professor Belsi Bishop, Acting Principal of the English Department, Professor Adrian, the Principal of the English School, to our students, our teachers. Thank you very much, and we hope that this is going to change your teaching methods, and you students will know that your teachers are going to know if you are cheating and using artificial intelligence. You are very smart and you know how to do it better than us, the teachers. But there will come the time that we will be experts as Alina, and we will see what you're doing, okay? So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Juan, for the technical part. Juan is with us, and he was the one who made all this technical part to be present here in this presentation and to have transmitted in YouTube. If you want to see it again, you can go to YouTube, to the YouTube channel, and you can rewind it and rewind. We don't just rewind anymore. It was something very old, not artificial intelligence, right? But yes, you can see it again. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and I hope you have a good back to classes. Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go, let's take a picture with all of you, please. Let's have the official picture. So students, let's kind of